Worry creeps in quietly. It taps on your shoulder when you're almost okay, and whispers, "But what if it all goes wrong?" I have a story that might explain this better than any definition. During the Cold War in the 1950s, the US military spent billions building underground bunkers, not because they were under active attack, but because of what might happen. An entire nation was living in what if. People stockpiled food, buried metal containers in their backyards, and children rehearsed hiding under desks, as if a thin layer of wood could shield them from a nuclear bomb. Looking back, it sounds absurd. But to them, that worry felt like preparation. It felt like control. And this is exactly how worry sneaks into your life too. It disguises itself as logic. It makes you believe you're being smart by predicting all the ways things could go wrong. But really, it's just your brain rehearsing pain it hasn't even experienced. Worry is seductive because it gives the illusion of action. You're not doing nothing. You're mentally running simulations, predicting outcomes, trying to prepare. But in truth, most of those things never happen. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." And worry is a master of resistance. It's the mind's way of refusing the unknown. You try to outthink uncertainty, but it's like trying to catch the wind with your hands. And here's what no one tells you. The mind doesn't even care if what it's worrying about is real. It just needs something to chew on. It's like a smoker who lights up not because they crave the smoke, but because they need something to do with their hands. Your mind needs something to obsess over, so it grabs the nearest uncertainty and holds on for dear life. So the question isn't, why do I worry? The real question is, what would my mind do if it had nothing to control? And that is where the addiction lives. Let's take this one step further. Have you ever noticed how your mind doesn't just worry once? It loops, repeats, rewinds. It'll take a moment that's long gone, replay it in your head, and suddenly, you're there again. Heart beating, overthinking, reacting to something that isn't even happening anymore. This is because the mind doesn't understand peace the way your soul does. The soul can rest in the unknown. But the mind needs structure, outcomes, stories with endings, even if those endings hurt. There's a term in neuroscience for this, negative bias. It means your brain is wired to pay more attention to what might go wrong than what's already going right. It helped our ancestors survive tigers, starvation, exile. But in today's world, there are no tigers, only emails, unread messages, and thoughts that spiral at 2 a.m. And that's the trap, because the brain still behaves like the world is dangerous, even when you're just trying to fall asleep in a warm bed. It will find a threat in silence. It will create a problem where there is none, just to stay busy. And so worry becomes your companion, not because you want it, but because on some level, it feels safer than calm. Because if you worry first, maybe the pain won't surprise you. Maybe the rejection won't sting. Maybe you'll be ready. But here's the catch. Worry doesn't protect you. It only drains you before life even gives you a reason to feel empty. It doesn't build armor. It pokes holes in your joy. And Carl Jung would have likely said this too. That worry is a symptom of the ego's desperate need for control. The part of you that says, if I know what's coming, I won't be hurt. But in truth, you miss the good things right now by trying to outsmart the bad things that might happen later. So ask yourself this. Is the moment you're in actually dangerous? Or is your mind just reliving an old script that was written in fear? Because the mind loves old scripts, especially the tragic ones. It's time to stop auditioning for roles in stories you don't want to live anymore. Let's break something wide open. You're not addicted to worry because you like suffering. You're addicted to it because, in some way, it gives you a sense of identity. Think about it. When everything is calm, when life finally slows down, something strange happens. You start to feel lost. You don't know who you are without the next thing to fix, the next problem to anticipate, the next imagined crisis. And that's not your fault. It's how modern life has conditioned you. You've been trained to associate doing with being. And if you're not fixing something, planning something, stressing about something, then it feels like you're falling behind. This is where the phantom problems syndrome creeps in. You invent something to solve, not because it's real, but because it's familiar. Let me give you an example you'll never forget. There's a well-known psychological phenomenon called phantom limb syndrome. It happens when someone loses a limb, but they still feel pain or sensation in that missing part of their body. Now apply that to the mind. You've been living with worry for so long that even when the problem is gone, you still feel it. You still brace for impact. You still tighten your chest and clench your jaw, even when there's nothing coming. That's phantom worry, a leftover sensation from a problem that no longer exists. It gets worse when you attach meaning to it. When you believe that worrying makes you a better person. If I care enough, I have to worry. If I don't worry, I must not care. That's a lie your anxious brain tells you. Peace doesn't mean you're careless. It means you've matured beyond the need to suffer for every situation. You can still care without collapsing. You can still be alert without being afraid. And here's another layer. You've likely built your life around worry, your routines, your inner monologue, even your relationships. Now, I know we touched on this in a previous video, but it's worth revisiting because the lesson is powerful and easy to overlook. There's a cognitive bias known as the IKEA Effect. It means we place more value on things we've invested effort into, even if they aren't perfect. Worry is no different. You've built this whole house of thoughts, habits, emotions, and fears. You've assembled them piece by piece, so of course you protect it, even when it's destroying you. But peace asks you to do something radical, to disassemble the house, to admit you don't need it anymore, to walk away from what you've built and choose something better. And that takes courage. Because letting go of worry isn't just a mindset shift, it's an identity shift. The question is, are you willing to stop being the character who's always overwhelmed so you can become the one who's finally free? Let's flip the question. It's not just, why do I worry so much? It's, what part of me benefits from worrying? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Some part of you finds comfort in discomfort, not because you enjoy it, but because it's predictable. And the mind is addicted to patterns it can predict. This is why people stay in toxic relationships, why they procrastinate, even when they know it hurts them, why they go to sleep with an exhausted body and a racing mind. It's predictable pain. And predictable pain feels safer than unpredictable peace. That's what worry gives you. A sense of familiarity. Carl Jung said it beautifully. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your worry isn't fate. It's a pattern. But if you don't step outside of it, you'll call it destiny. You'll say things like, I've just always been this way. My mind never stops. It's who I am. Every moment you surrender to the worry loop, you reinforce it. But every moment you observe it without reacting, even just once, you crack the loop open. You remind your brain, there's another way. And here's where it gets real. Once you see the pattern clearly, not just mentally but viscerally, you can't unsee it. You'll notice how your thoughts jump ahead during peace, how your brain resists silence, how you grasp for problems in the middle of joy. And that's your window, not to judge yourself, but to liberate yourself. Here's a challenge I want you to try. For the next 24 hours, do not respond to your first worried thought. Just notice it, smile at it. Let it pass like a bird flying through the sky. Don't analyze it. Don't fix it, just observe it and choose stillness. You'll be shocked how many of those thoughts were never real. Just echoes, just habits. And the moment you realize that you finally reclaim your mind. Not by fighting it, but by remembering. Worry isn't who you are. It's just noise, and silence has always been your true voice.